Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam, everyone together. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Shravanarottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nasta Praishwabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. All right, this morning we're reading chapter 2 of the first canto and verses 11 and 12. This is the verse that you might remember Brajabihari Prabhu gave a class a week or two ago, and he said this is the Mahavakya, the great verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. This verse is the one that Jiva Goswami used to comment on in his Sandarbha. So it's a highly important verse, and everybody should totally memorize it by the time we finish class, all right? Why are you laughing? It's 1 to 11. Vadanti tat tatvavidas Tatvam yajnanam advayam Rameti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate Vadanti tat tatvavidas Tatvam yajnanam advayam Rameti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti satyate. Please chant. Vedanti tattvavidas Tattva yajnanam advayam Rameti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Vedanti tattvavidas Tattvam yajnanam advayam Rameti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Vedanti tattvavidas Tattvam yajnanam advayam Rameti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Vedanti tattvavidas Tattva yajnanam advayam Rameti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Vedanti tattvavidas Tattvam yajnanam advayam Rameti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Vedanti tattvavidas Synonyms together. Vedanti, they say, tat, that, tatvavida, the learned souls, tatvam, the absolute truth, yet, the which, jnanam, knowledge, advayam, non-dual, brahma, known as Brahman, Paramatma iti, known as Paramatma, Bhagavan iti, known as Bhagavan, Shabdite, it's so sounded. In translation together. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. Purport. The absolute truth is both subject and object. Okay, let's stop right there. Who would like to explain that? The absolute truth is both subject and object. Quick. Thing. The absolute truth is everything. Okay, that's well put. Yes, he's both subject and object. In terms of persons, what is subject? Is it just talking about persons, not things? Yeah. Person, subject means?
You feel?
Yeah, me. Subject is me. And then object is?
What you think about?
Object is you in terms of people. Subjective is about me. Objective is
Krishna.
about you. Well, the absolute truth is both subject and object. In other words, yes, it's everything. Or in other words, it is simultaneously one and different. The rest of that sentence. And there is no qualitative difference there. Subject and object are one in quality and different in quantity. Okay. Chris, would you like to continue there?
The absolute truth is both subject and object, and there is no qualitative difference there. Therefore, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are qualitatively one and the same. The same substance is realized as impersonal Brahman by the students of the Upanishads, as localized Paramatma by the Hiranyagarbhas, or the yogis, and as Bhagavan by the devotees. In other words, Bhagavan, or the personality of Godhead, is the last word of the absolute truth. Paramatma is the partial representation of the personality of Godhead, and impersonal Brahman is the glowing effulgence of the personality of Godhead, as the sun rays are to the sun god. Less intelligent students of either of the above schools sometimes argue in favor of their own respective realization, but those who are perfect seers of the absolute truth know well that the above three features of that one absolute truth are different perspective views seen from different angles of vision.
Okay, thank you. So this word advayam means non-dual. I'm going to warn you, I'm going to use the G word in this class. In New Zealand, friend Amrita Swami said, yeah, we never use the G word when we're giving classes. What is the G word? No, Gulab Jamun. No, okay, sorry. Yes. Yes, God, as John Lennon famously said, is a concept by which we measure our pain. You stub your toe, you say, oh God. If you break your arm, you say, oh God. So nonetheless, when I was a young boy in Christian school, I was told God is three. So who's God? God is three: the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. And this is called the Holy Trinity. So don't talk about God individually. God comes to us in this threefold form. It's very common. Anyone familiar with this? The Trinity from Christianity? Like even over here in Gainesville, one of the most dynamic churches in Gainesville is Trinity Methodist over on 53rd. And yeah, it's the understanding of God is in this threefold form. So what does this mean in terms of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan? So first of all, the Father, that's easy to understand. God the Father, or Bhagavan in our parlance. And then Brahman is like the Holy Spirit. Okay. So those two are they line up pretty well. The idea of the Holy Spirit being the all-pervading presence of God. And the Paramatma, on the other hand, is a little more tricky to understand. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. They say the Son, we say the Holy Ghost. I mean, we say, the Paramatma, the Super Soul. So the idea of the Paramatma is that God is present in everyone's heart individually. He's present everywhere as Brahman. He's in the heart localized, Prabhupada said, as the super soul, but he also has his objective existence as Bhagavan. So this is the non-dual presence of God. So the Paramatma, or the Son, well, the Paramatma is represented how in our tradition? Through? What is the external manifestation? Through the Guru. Yes, the Guru is the external manifestation of the super soul. In the Gita, Krishna talks about the super soul as being the source of three things. What are those three things? Remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Yes, so he makes us remember when we are turning to him. He gives us knowledge when we're turning to him, and if we don't want to turn to him, he helps us forget. So he's very neutral. Just whatever our desire is, this is our relationship with God. He is glad to reciprocate with however we choose to approach him. As the super soul, he's like the Chaitya Guru, the internal Guru, guiding us, giving us little clues about what to do. Have you experienced the super soul, like maybe when you're first, in some cases, you're discovering Krishna consciousness, you're walking along and then all of a sudden you hear a Harinam party. It's like, oh, that sounds interesting. Or you get a book, or the Gita kind of jumps off the shelf. Devotees have these experiences of super soul kind of leading them to anyone want to share an experience of connecting with super soul? Carla? Got a mic? Yeah.
Just kind of that idea of it jumping out at you. When I had the donation that I took to a temple, I looked up temples near me on Google, and the Boise Hare Krishna Vedic temple like literally popped out. Like it stood out above the rest. And so I went there, So
super soul.
Yeah.
Yes, we are always getting these messages in various ways, even day to day, moment to moment. Like you ever have that feeling like you're leaving your room and super soul is saying, you're forgetting something. And you say, ah. And then when you're out later, so, oh, why didn't I bring that? Yes. So this is, the super soul is giving us messages, and as we become more refined in our spiritual awareness, we are able to tap into those messages more clearly. We stop and listen when we get a little hint of intuition. Sariputta Prabhu wrote a very nice article connecting the super soul to intuition. Now, intuition is a mysterious thing in science. How do geese know how to migrate? How do butterflies know how to migrate? How do animals know how to adjust to the seasons and so forth? There's no apparent reason why they should. This is the super soul directing them, and there's no filter there. The super soul is, according to their desire, they have a certain body, and in that body they are just under the direction of the super soul. So for the human beings, we get a little more complicated. We have this subtle mind intelligence and false ego that is filtering the messages. So the idea is the guru is the external manifestation to help us cut through the filters that we tend to put over the message that is coming from the Paramatma. So what class of people are all about the Paramatma? Just want to focus on that. Class of transcendentalists. The yogis. The yogis, through intense meditation, can also connect with the super soul in the heart. There's just one problem with that connection. What is that? When they realize the super soul, they get rid of all of the distractions of the body, mind, and senses, and they're perfectly in the presence of the super soul. What do they sometimes think? What Prabhupada calls the last snare of Maya. Gopi? I think they are the super soul, yes. This is the problem with the impersonalists also, who are seeking to understand God's all-pervading spirit. There's no relationship there. I just want to get it, I want to realize it, I want to be part of my life, and then I'll be really cool. So there's no sense of humility, of submission, of service, and that is what distinguishes the devotees from the yogis and the impersonalists. Okay, all right, any discussion on this much? Okay, read on. Who'd like to read next? One more paragraph here. Violet?
As it is explained in the first shloka of the first chapter of Bhagavatam, the supreme truth is self-sufficient, cognizant, and free from the illusion of relativity. In the relative world, the knower is different from the known, but in the absolute truth, both the knower and the known are one and the same thing. In the relative world, the knower is the living spirit or superior energy, whereas the known is the inherent matter or inferior energy. Therefore, there is a duality of inferior and superior energy, whereas the absolute realm, both the knower and the known are of the same superior energy. There are three kinds of energies in the supreme and energetic. There is no difference between the energy and the energetic, but there is a difference of the quality of energies. The absolute realm of the living and the absolute realm and the living entities are of the same superior energy, but the material world is inferior energy. The living being in contact with the inferior energy is illusioned, thinking he belongs to the inferior energy. Therefore, there is a sense of relativity in the material world. In the absolute truth, there is no sense of difference between the knower and the known. Therefore, everything is the absolute.
Okay, these three energies. I'm just reminded of Sridhananda Maharaj telling me about his college years. He started chanting Hare Krishna when he was a student at UC Berkeley. And he wanted to just drop out of school and move into the ashram. The Prabhupada told him no, he should finish his degree and become educated. So he would go to class in his dhoti and his sika and tilak. He set up a little altar on his desk. And he had what we call PDS, the Pure Devotee Syndrome. So in one of the physics classes, the professor was talking about 4 types of energies in physics, kinetic and so forth. And he said, no, there's 3 types of energies: internal, external, and marginal. So the internal energy refers to what? What? It is internal energy is Krishna and his enjoying propensity. Just have to understand, back to the G word again, all he does is enjoy. That's all God does is enjoy. I mean, what else is he going to do? And this is what makes Krishna conscious theology so interesting, because our general concept of God in the Judeo-Christian sense is this very fearsome, unpleasant, easily agitated person who doesn't manage money very well because he's always asking for more. So the idea of God as as like an administrator in the universe is kind of ridiculous, isn't it? Like, if you could do anything, why would you create something you have to manage? You just, now what will I do to enjoy? Now what will I do to enjoy? So this is the difference between the theist and the atheist, right? The theist thinks God is the supreme enjoyer. And he's having so much fun, I'd like to be with him. And the atheist thinks, what can I do to have fun? What they don't understand is that the fun for the soul exists in having fun with God. You want to have fun, you want to be with the supreme fun seeker. And the one who can create anything for fun and do anything for fun. So anyway, this is the internal energy. That is called Ladini Shakti, which means pleasure giving or love. Krishna is always wrapped in his Ladini Shakti, who is personified by Radharani. And then the external energy is what? Gainesville. Yeah, basically, yeah. It is all that we can see and taste and touch, everything around us, everything sensate, everything visible, everything audible, everything we can smell, that's the external energy, which is created. Why does Krishna explain in the living entity, in the Bhagavad Gita? Why is there marginal energy, or the external energy? Krishna is very busy with his internal energy. Why would he bother creating external energy? Yes, to accommodate the marginal energy. Right, very good. So marginal means in the middle, right? Like at the beach, the beach is marginal energy. When the tide's in, it's wet, and when the tide's out, it's dry. So it's vacillating. It can go either way. And in the same way, the soul can either be wrapped in the ladini, in the internal energy, or in the external maya energy. And that is our free will to choose. So when we talk about the subject and the object being one, the knower and the known being one, in the absolute sense, when we know God, when we know Krishna, then there's no filter at all. There's no qualitative difference. The quantitative difference is always there, but the qualitative difference is completely apparent and realized. When the marginal energy jiva is in the external energy, however, there is that sense of difference. The enjoyment the living entity gets is not connected to God directly. Indirectly, yes, because everything comes from God. But directly, the living entity is thinking, how can I enjoy? And whether God exists or not is either an open question or one that has been artificially decided. Right? So this is how Krishna conscious theology is so nice. God's the supreme enjoyer. He's not the judge. He's not the executioner. He's just having a great time. And we turn to him and say, okay, I would like to transition out of the external into the internal. Then he says, well, let me check to make sure you're ready for this. he starts giving us little experiences that hack away at our long-standing attachment to the external energy. So this is why the path of devotional service is, as Bhaktisiddhanta put it, it is strewn with thorns. Because we have this long-standing attachment to the external energy that was voluntary, we weren't forced to it. Now we are slowly trotting our way out. So he tests us because that admission to the Ladini Shakti requires that purity. In other words, you can't get in the party. Nobody wants to invite somebody to the party who's depressed, down, not going to enjoy, so sit in the corner and sulk. Nobody wants to invite that person. They're not in the right mood. So our goal in bhakti is to develop the party spirit, the partying mood. I don't know if anyone heard Kadamba Kanana Maharaj's, he videotaped the last statement to his friends and disciples. He was dying of cancer. It was really moving because it was all so bright. He said, all right, I'm about to go in the big kirtan and we're all going to go there and I will see you there. It wasn't anything like you might expect. So what Prabhupada said is, when he was asked, why have you come to the West? He said, I've come to teach you how to enjoy. You don't know how to enjoy. You think you're enjoying, but you don't know how to enjoy. So that the joy of Krishna consciousness is a little subtle because it's not the gross kind we're used to. The subtle joy of Krishna consciousness manifests in having good qualities kind of pop out in our lives unexpectedly. It manifests in us becoming more thoughtful or more tolerant or more patient or more giving to other people, less self-absorbed. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati kinchana. The good qualities manifest automatically. A friend asked me the other day, what can I do to be a better person, essentially? This is what he was saying. They sometimes feel down on themselves, and feel like they're falling short and they've made so many mistakes. And so I was explaining how Prabhupada answered this question by saying, you are who you are, and Krishna accepts you as you are. You don't have to be anyone else. The mode of passion thinks, I ought to be better than I am. The mode of ignorance thinks, oh, I blew it, I'm no good. But the mode of goodness thinks, okay, I am what I am. I'm as good as anyone else. I can approach Krishna if I want to, and I'm not great. I'm not terrible. I'm just above average, like everybody else. So that's the humble and graceful self-identity that is possible when we understand that Krishna is the enjoyer and not us. He is the enjoyer, and we're just one of his objects of enjoyment. So if we bring him enjoyment, then we enjoy. If we try to enjoy without him, then we're like a dog chasing its tail. It just really goes nowhere. So, any comments on this before we go on? Yes, Kunti.
I was wondering if you could say something about, because as you were saying this, I was thinking that every single soul has a desire to be special, to be different than others, to have like meaning to Krishna or to the person that they love. So if we're all the same, then where is that desire coming from?
Because every one of us is created to please Krishna in a unique way. That adjective unique is one that cannot be modified. You say, that's pretty unique, Prabhu. That's kind of unique. No, it's either unique, which means absolutely one of a kind, or it's not unique. So we are unique in that Krishna has made us to bring him a certain type of enjoyment. And self-realization means to find out exactly what that is. So what is the process of self-realization? Well, in that we give up our false materialistic sense of individuality. Right? And we chant the same mantras. We read the same books. We say the same Hari Bols. We eat the same prasadam. And yet, within that, there's infinite varieties. How do we serve Krishna? Well, you do in this way, I do in that way. What kind of prasadam do you like? It's very individual. So there's simultaneously this oneness and difference. The oneness is that we are no longer trying to enjoy separately. We're trying to find out how we can get into the party with Krishna. So it just, the hard part, especially for younguns, is that it takes time. It takes years, decades to manifest, like to really begin to discover what you love to do for Krishna. You'll know right away certain things. And as far as possible, you want to use your propensities. But to really find that which every day stimulates you and makes you want to get up and chant and engage, that can take some time. So that's why patience is mentioned by Rupa Goswami as one of the factors of successful devotional service, right? Utsahan nischayat dharyat, enthusiasm and dharyat, patience. So those things seem to be in opposite ends of the spectrum, right? So sustainable enthusiasm, that's the mode of goodness, where we can maintain our enthusiasm regularly, daily, over a period of days and months and years. And then, as the Bible says, the fruits of the Spirit manifest in our lives. And part of that is knowing what you really love to do for Krishna. Okay, so as a young person, young devotee, try everything, a little of everything, get experiences of every kind of service especially, and see what it is that really stimulates you. Like, for example, my friend HG Kalakantha, for many years, HG Kalakantha has been a faithful servant of Srila Prabhupada, and in his later years, he discovered that he has a great joy for cow protection in spite of being a city slicker by birth, right? So we're just talking about finding what it is we love to do for Krishna and how it takes a little time. Yep. So does that answer your question, Kunti? Okay. Radhika?
On a similar topic, you said mode of goodness is accepting, I am who I am. But also, like, how can we not accept maybe not accept, but when we engage in lower habits or act from our inferior self, how can we just like not just accept that as part of, okay, this is just who I am, and just become kind of complacent? So how can we have that balance?
Yeah, this is a really good question. In other words, does self-acceptance mean complacency? What is the difference between those? So self-acceptance means that I recognize that I'm not on the highest level of bhakti. I am not seeing Radha Krishna pastimes every moment. We had a bhakta in the temple years ago, and he'd be in the temple kitchen washing pots, going, "Oh Radha, oh Krishna," and then a week later he was gone. So self-acceptance is recognizing we're neither the most fallen nor the least fallen, simply insignificant. You see, in our materialistic concept, we are the center of everything. And so we think we ought to be getting a lot of recognition that we're not getting. The astrologers and palm readers know this very well. So they'll look at somebody's palm and say, "Oh, you have a lot of unrecognized talents." Wow. So the false ego makes us think we should be getting more acknowledgement. So self-acceptance in that regard means that, no, I'm nothing special. I'm a devotee. I'm fortunate to be a devotee. I'm grateful to be a devotee. And I'm a devotee who still has taste for a lot of things in the material world. So that's really where I'm at. But I trust the process. And I'm consciously going to do as much as I can to fill up my day with spiritual content as much as possible. But if it's 70%, if it's not 100%, I'm not going to give up. See, just wanting to be more than we are is just another way of the mind saying, "Oh, you should give this up." Because why? Oh, well, I can't give up this attachment. I might as well give up trying. See, it's just a subtle trick of the mind. So self-acceptance means to recognize, okay, I'm not at my highest stage yet, but I'm a work in progress. I still like to listen to rock music, but I also like some kirtans. And over time, I'm going to get more attached to kirtans. On the other hand, self-acceptance in the lower modes, in the mode of ignorance, is blocked by just that hopelessness, and really reflecting on dumb things that we've done and mistakes, and feeling so discouraged. I'm not good enough to be with the devotees. This is sometimes the mode of ignorance manifesting. Again, refusing to accept that I'm a devotee, but not a pure devotee, or not a perfect devotee yet. So in this way, once we accept ourselves, then life gets a little easier. But we don't have to feel we have to put on a front. We have to pretend to be on a certain level that we're not. We're just works in progress. Jayadvaita Maharaj tells a story about going in to get a ticket in Grand Central Station in New York, and he went in with his dhoti and his tilak and his sika, and the lady looked at him and said, "Who are you?" This is New York, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm a Hare Krishna." "Oh, Hare Krishna, I like you people. You are who you pretend to be." So in other words, I think devotees tend to have a reputation of being kind of showy, and people can't figure out why we chant Hare Krishna and do what we do. But from our point of view, subjectively, we're just having a good time. Harinam is the best example, isn't it? People see us on Harinam and I could never do that. What are these like fabulous show-offs, people who are craving attention? But then on the other side, when you're doing it, it's so much fun to see how the modes are acting on all these different people. It's like a Bhagavatam class in motion. So like we have Rath Yatra is especially a good example. We're having Rath Yatra, I think, in a few weeks now with the homecoming parade. And you're in that Rath Yatra, just look at this bank of people on both sides, and you see every possible combination of the three modes. Everything from disgust to joy at seeing the devotees. So anyway, self-acceptance is a big part of it, maturity in Krishna consciousness. We don't have to be anything other than who we are. Is that all right, Radhika? Okay. If we do lower things, as long as they're within the regulative principles, we're okay. If we're doing things outside the regulative principles, we have a problem, and we have to talk to them answer. Because that will keep us from going any further. Other comments, reflections? Okay, Anthony?
Thank you so much. That's like so fascinating. And like the Psych 101 class comes to my mind with self-fulfilling prophecies, where somebody tells you you're a bad boy. And you're like, oh, I am this. So accepting like cultural labels and labels from other people, which I'm very guilty of. And then you embrace this role and you maybe go down a road that's not for you. So like I've played with different like outfits or personality types or genres of music. It seems to be infinite in variety. And identifying with as a spirit soul seems to be the most productive and conducive for peace and well-being. Even with other people, if they're doing something wrong, I'm like, oh, spirit soul, he's just confused or he's lost. And just like you said it triggered me with like the Harinam when you see people like, oh, leave me alone. Like that was that just sparked something. It was just like you can see the looks on their faces. It's almost like you go through all emotions when you see different people just walking down. So I found that very fascinating. Just in the small sliver, there seems to embody everything.
Yeah, people in the mode of goodness, they see we're having fun. They see the devotees are genuinely happy, so they smile. It's a contagious smile. And people in the mode of passion, you're not there. I'm not seeing you. You do not exist. I haven't noticed you at all. And people in the mode of ignorance. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, this what you brought up also is really good for in terms of our conditioning. Yeah, we have been told through our lives how we fall short. You know, we're graded on the curve, graded on a straight scale, but we succeed, we fail, we're recognized, we're ignored. All these things are just part of our material identity and has nothing to do with our spiritual life. So shedding that material identity is actually a great joy. It's liberating. So we no longer are just focused on ourselves. That's the difference between the liberated soul and the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul is all about me. The liberated soul is all about God. All right. Thank you, Prabhu.
Much. A little bit more on conditioning and what Anthony just shared. That could be also within the walls of four regular principles for us as devotees, but it's also out there, outside. I've noticed, especially in the gym culture, that we see these feelings of shame that can really kind of block one from understanding that we're loved by Krishna, we're loved by devotees. What would be the best way to kind of overcome that feeling of shame? Because I heard once, the friend, who is the friend? Friend is the one who understands where we are coming from, accepts us for who we are, where we are now, and yet encourages us to move further.
Right, even sometimes by constructive criticism. Right? Yeah. Yeah, shame and fear and guilt are the reasons why people reject religion in general, because they see that charade that you got to believe in God or else. And for a thoughtful person, that's too intimidating. I'm not going to be cowed into believing into God. I'm not going to be pushed. And if that's what it means, I don't want anything to do with it. So shame is not part of our lexicon in Christian consciousness in the ignorant sense. We feel ashamed if we do something wrong, but then we act on it and then we move on. We correct the mistake. Like we make offenses to devotees and we feel ashamed. So what do? We have to go to that devotee and beg their forgiveness. Like Maharaj Ambarish forgave Durvasa Muni. And that knowledge of bhakti helps us deal with shame so we don't carry it around in the mode of ignorance. Because we can't love Krishna out of shame. We can't love Krishna out of guilt. Those are all negative emotions. The positive, loving joy of the spiritual world is in the internal potency. So, does that address your point? Okay, thank you. Cool.
There's at least one verse in the Bhagavatam, maybe more, where it says something to the effect that no one is abominable or fit to be neglected by the Lord.
No one is.
No one is abominable or fit to be neglected by the Lord.
No one is abominable or fit to be neglected. That's so nice.
Thank you. I was at Walmart yesterday in the kitchen section and I went to get some things, and there was a shelf full of water filters, and they're all different colors. I never seen them before, and I realized it says all flavors, all different flavors of water filters. And I was thinking, what's the spiritual meaning of this? And then you were talking about how the animals, they don't have a filter, they just follow the Paramatma. But when we come, we get all these filters and layers. Anyway, you help me to understand the puzzle.
Actually flavor the water? Oh my God. There's a Bengali saying, walk on your hands or clap with your feet, but do something different. Okay, we're supposed to briefly cover verse 12. I just want to read the translation. I'll wrap up. Would please, Nate, thank you. Let's do the Sanskrit. Let's do the English one. Yeah. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge of detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. Okay, what this means is understanding Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The successful student, having heard from the Vedas, comes to the conclusion of rendering service to Bhagavan. Okay. Again, the primary subject this morning, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. It's like seeing a train. For those to whom this concept is new, you see a train in a great distance, you just see a light. When it gets a little closer, you see, oh, that's a train. When the train pulls up to the station, the people get out, then you have interaction, you have relationships. Same train, non-dual, but just seen from different perspectives. Thank you. Any last comments? Gopi Prabhu.
Thank you for the class, Prabhu. This is unrelated to the class, but I just want to remind everyone that Mahatma Prabhu's surgery is still going on for 4 hours. So for the next 4 hours, please, whatever you're doing, you can think of him and send your loving thoughts towards him. Whether you're taking prasadam, or maybe you can do some extra rounds, or when you're on campus distributing prasadam, singing kirtan, we could do everything today for the next few hours in dedication of Mahatma Prabhu.
Sa Mahatma Sudur Lavaha, rare soul. Triple bypass surgery, right? Yeah, so no light thing. At the same time, Krishna's mercy, it was caught before him, before it became an emergency. So, yes, pray that he would be with us for many more years. All right, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Mahatma Prabhu ki jai.
Actually, one of those things that's really well. I guess my